Good afternoon everyone, welcome to Our Small Footprint. My name is Nyssa, and if you're new here, we are a family of 8 who live off-grid in Australia. Today's video is about our grey water system. Now, I have been telling you guys that I'll come in and update you once we get it working. Now, it's still a little bit of a work in progress aesthetically, but in function, we finally got it working. So our bathtub just empties out underneath the bathroom through a pipe out to here. It's just water straight from the bathtub only at the moment. I think if we want to add our washing machine into it, we'll need a bit more filtration before it hits the irrigation. We still do use a little bit of bleach in our water, in our washing sometimes, and things like that, and I'm not real keen on that going through, though it is heavily diluted. But the problem is that because we use a twin tub washing machine, the dilution of the detergent to the water is probably quite low in comparison to a full-size washing machine. Like, they would have a lot more water that goes through it. So I think we need to add a second filtration unit if we're going to add the laundry water to it, which is perfectly fine. We can figure that out at a later date. But for now, this is what we've got for the bath water. And I just really wanted the bath water to be used efficiently. So we've been working on this for months and months to get it to work adequately. We want it to be a system that is basically hands-off. We want it to run automatically whenever any water goes through the bathtub, then this kicks in and things like that. And we've been having some troubles trying to get that to work efficiently. So we finally got it working in a way that is kicking in and out, though we've still got some things to fix in. Now, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put a little clip in here of when we first installed the bathtub, which is what our filtration system is, and the baffles, because I took footage when we did it, but it was just so long ago that I never ended up putting anything together. So I'm going to put that in here, and it might make things a little bit disjointed, but at least you'll get the video of when we first installed the bathtub and how we installed things in there. So watch that little clip first, and then I'll come back and show you what's going on now and how it's working. Progress on the grey water system. So this hose here that comes in is from our bathtub, and it will go into this unit. So we've got 3 baffles in the bathtub. The water has to go under the first one, and then over the second one, under the third one, and then out the hole there. So now that we've got these 3 baffles, they're made from pond liner and waterproof tape. It doesn't have to be perfect. I know it's pretty messy. It's not perfect, but it doesn't need to be, because the stones are going to hold them in place. So the idea is that the water comes in the spout, goes through here, has to go to the bottom to go under, has to go to the top to go over, under to the bottom, and then out that hole over there. And then at that hole there, that will go to our pump that is a submersible pump that has a float. So when the water fills up, then the water will pump out to the irrigation that goes to our fruit trees. And then eventually in the stones, I will plant some water plants as well to help with filtration. So we're going to go and get some stones and start filling this up, and then we'll have to see how it works. Okay, so obviously we filled it in with the gravel. So we've got the inlet pipe just here, and it comes in here, and you can see that the top here catches a lot of any sort of lint and hair and things like that fall on top of the gravel here. The gravel is at a height, and the hole is at a height at the other end that there's never any water sitting on the top here. So we've got this little bit of gunk here, which I might get a little bit more gravel for the top section just here to lift it up, but nothing is causing any issues. We've got some ants here at the moment. Obviously they're enjoying the bit of moisture, but other than that, there isn't anything there. I also intend to plant some water plants in here, so we will do that eventually as well. So this is the bathtub. It's got the 3 baffles in it. Like we said, you can't see the one in the middle because the water is traveling over this one, so you only have to go in a little bit, and there's a water level. So we make sure to keep the gravel at a point that there is no water just sitting on the surface for anything to breed in, which was part of how we had the bath tilted, where we put the hole in the end of the bath and all that sort of thing. Then the end of the bath has the outlet that comes out there. And then what we had here to begin with was we had the Holman, this Holman arid grey water system. And the problem was that we couldn't fill the hole in well enough for it not to float. We couldn't fill the hole in well enough around it because it's not a structure that's suitable to be dug in ground all the way. And the filter system in it just doesn't seem to work properly. So we tried having that in the hole originally, but then we couldn't pack it in enough, and then when it rained, the hole filled up and it twisted the pipe and it floated, so it wasn't going to work. So at the moment, what we've done is we've filled the hole with pond liner, so this heavy duty pond liner fabric, and then put the pump directly in. Now this pump here is a Jabeo pump. You can get them on eBay, and it is a very low wattage pump with a really good push to it. We then bought the little blue and yellow thing. There is a float. So the float we've then attached to the pump. We have to have it nice and low for the water here, and it's got a piggyback switch. So the float, let me show you. So it's got a piggyback switch. Oh, excuse the wonky camera. Piggyback switch here. So this here is where the piggyback switch plugs in, and then the pump plugs in to the piggyback switch here. So it means that the float is what sets the pump on and off. So as the float floats, the pump kicks in, and as the float drops, the pump kicks out. Now, we are going to create a lid for this so that there's no standing water that things can breed in. As you can see, there's some bugs and stuff in it at the moment. But we've also discovered that there's too much standing water here because the hole is too large. So what happens is it needs too much water to go in there for that float to adequately float and sink, even with that short distance. So we need to, what we're going to do is bring that end of the hole in this way a bit so that it's a taller, narrower, so that less water is required for that float to go in. But it's working perfectly fine. We just don't want this sitting water here when we can get rid of it. So we don't want to have sitting grey water. So it needs to be emptied completely. It gets flushed every day because the bath gets used every day. So no water is sitting any longer than 24 hours, which is the requirements for grey water. Grey water isn't allowed to sit for longer than 24 hours. And it never does because it's through the bath. So the bath water is always used. Look at all the wildlife around here in this water. Little bugs. I don't know if I can zoom into, but lots of little bugs there. So that works there. So we've just got it hooked up to a standard hose fitting, and the hose fitting travels out, and I'll show you where it goes. Okay, so the hose fitting comes along and has a fitting on this end with the, I want to say 25mm irrigation piping. It's been a long time since we set this up, so maybe 25mm, 19mm, that's it, that's what the measurements are. So 19mm irrigation piping, and we have it connected in all sorts of ways, T's and everything that go in all different directions. So what it does is it travels out to the orchard, but it also travels back this way, excusing the weeds, to the strawberries and the raspberry patches as well. And what we found worked best for us was just to use the 4mm fittings. So the 4mm little plug that pierces the 19mm pipe with the 4mm piping and leaving it open. Because it's grey water, it is, I forgot to mention, on the filter in the hole, we have filtration material attached to the inlet of the pipe to try and make sure that it doesn't pull in any large anything that comes in, but it is filtered through the bathtub as well. So theoretically there shouldn't be anything that's significantly large, but at the same time drip lines get clogged up so easily that what we did was we just used the 4mm fittings with the pipe, and then we have it directed where we need it to go. So this bed is empty at the moment, but out at the trees, which I'll take you out to see, we've got them into the depression around the trees. So everything is massively overgrown out here at the moment. It really needs some work done. I have been asking for it and it hasn't been happening, but anyway, so the grass is taking over around these fruit trees again at the moment, but they're all looking, most of them are looking okay. The some at the end are not looking real great, so we're trying to, which are new ones, whereas these ones have been here for a couple of years, so they're a bit more established. So that's why we really wanted to get the grey water working as well, was to try and get that working. So out at the trees we have the 19mm line runs in 2 rows up the 2 rows of trees, and then there's the 4 mil coming off it. So I'll show you, it's the same as in those beds, but just goes into the depression that's around the tree. So we've got the same 19 mil line with the 4 mil pipe, and then we just put it into this depression, and we've got sort of like a moat / depression around all the trees. We mulch it up so that it's on the same level. It could do with some new mulch at the moment, but you can see it's sort of a bit lower. So the idea is that the water runs into that depression around the tree and it holds more water in that space and then helps to get water to the tree, sort of thing. The tree's got plenty of new growth here too, so this one in particular is looking pretty good. It's got some new height, new growth. Pretty happy with that. Some of them don't look as good. We've got something that the new citrus trees that we put out here, we've got something that has decided it really likes to dig in around them, and they are struggling a lot, or getting very curly, and this one has come off its stake as well, but there's a lot of, they're not looking as healthy as they could. This one also looks like Darryl hasn't put a drip line in yet because this tree only went in recently, so there obviously wasn't a line in here. So let me see if I can find the equipment to do this, and I'll do this on camera.
Say when.
Yep. So the little barb just goes straight into the 19 mil pipe with 4 mil, and then we use a tent peg to hold that down sometimes if we need it to direct a little bit, but that's why we have the depression around the trees as well, is so that it only has to go into a generalized direction for the tree to be able to access it. But the tent pegs work really well to hold the pipe where we need it to. And as you can see, there's a little bit of water dribbling out that too, so there was obviously a little bit of water sitting in the lines from when the pump kicked in last time. So that's the process so far. It's working well at the moment. It's running through the bathtub out to the trees that are currently irrigated. We just need to update that irrigation line to make sure it's going to any of the new trees that went in, and then we'll water that whole lot. So our bathtub runs at about 6 litre, the shower over the bath. We use a Julka hot tap, and it runs at a max of 6 litres a minute. So theoretically, if everyone has 3-minute showers, which is what we aim for, and then there is 8 people having 3-minute showers, you've got 24 minutes at 6 litres a minute, which is what, 144 litres, say an even 150 litres ish going through that bathtub every day to water along those lines, which means that no one tree should be getting too much water, especially if it rains, because the whole point is that when it rains we're still having baths. So that's why we have it going to the trees too, not to things that are in any sort of a container, because you wouldn't want to flood the container, whereas the trees, the water will just run off into the ground around the trees as the trees don't need it, sort of thing, like into the ground around them. I know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. So that's the way we've got it working at the moment. In regards to the laundry water, as I said, I think a second bathtub. So if we put a second bathtub in that hole that we've currently created, and then we can create a better place for the water to go to as well, if we use that hole there for a second bathtub and run it through more baffles, then that will work. I also want to get some plants that can go into the gravel, some water-based plants. I've been having a look at a few around, and I have to find ones that are frost tolerant as well. So I'm having a little bit of trouble because most water-based plants are more sort of tropical-ish weather. So if anyone knows any water plants that would fit in that would grow in the gravel but also tolerate the frosts, though I suppose I could make mini hot houses over the top of it, but I don't know if that's a good idea with grey water. So anyway, I think planting something into that gravel would be beneficial for the filtering of the water as well. So that is the plan at the moment, but for the most part it's coming out pretty good. The water is fairly clear, fairly smell free, and all the rest of it coming through. It's the gravel is catching all the sediment and stuff like that, which is the main purpose of doing that before it hits the grey water system. And we don't use a lot of shampoos or soaps or anything like that anyway. Fairly minimal that we've got going through there. So we will see how it goes over the span of time, but none of the fruit trees look any worse for the water that's coming through. And we did use the old grey water system for months and months and months before it stopped working. So, and it didn't have any problem then as well. Any tips though, feel free to leave them in the comments. Always happy to hear other options and choices that I can possibly do, but this is what we've got and this is what's working so far. The baffle system is definitely working at slowing that water down through the filtration system, which is what we wanted. We did look at using, say, biofilter material rather than gravel, but we're not reticulating the water or anything like that, and so the water isn't going through fast enough for it to create its own biome in there, in my opinion, and I think we'd just end up with smell rather than a healthy biome, to be honest. So we went with the gravel because that was the easiest way to go, the simplest way to go. There's some larger gravel on the bottom, some smaller gravel on the top too, to create that level of filtration too before it comes out in that top point. So hopefully that helps someone thinking about doing this sort of thing to do it easily with stuff that you can get. And if we can find another secondhand bathtub, then we will look at trying to put that secondary set of filtration through, and then look at trying to use the laundry water. Maybe we'll have a bypass in the laundry, so that if we're using something that has bleach or something in it, that we can bypass the grey water system. We don't use bleach on many washes, but there is some need for it occasionally. So maybe that's the way to go. We have a bypass so the water can go elsewhere when we've got something in the washing machine that we don't want to go through the filtration system. We'll have a look at it anyway. It's always going to be a work in progress, like everything around here. Progress, not perfection. We say that all the time, and I'm still getting those mugs worked out. Everything, so long as we're moving forward, then we're moving in the right direction. So thank you for watching again, guys, and I will see you again on the next video.